The League of Ireland pod, in partnership with Rockshore.
On Off the Ball.
A league of our own. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
You're welcome along to the League of Ireland pod after another manic week in the league. I'm delighted to be joined by Vinny Perth and Gareth McGlynn as ever. How are we, lads?
All good.
All good, man. How are we?
Very well. So, League of Ireland football and Off the Ball is brought to you by Rockshore, a league of our own. Drink responsibly. See drinkaware.ie. And unfortunately, there's only one place to start because, as we know, Romantic Ireland is dead and gone. It's with O'Leary in the grave. It could only come from one League of Ireland manager. Your old friend.
You're up, Vinny. You're up. You're the only man can make sense of it all.
I can only give you my Yates quote. Work is the curse of the drinking class. There you go. How's that one?
Brilliant. You can imagine what that changing room was like, Nathan. Two boys just quoting at each other all day.
If only we could reunite them at some stage. the beautiful poetry that would emerge.
That's all.
What do you want? Do you want Pats to win the league or something like that?
Oh.
Wow. Jeez, he's going there, isn't he? He is going there. We start on this. We'll get into Tim Clancy leaving Cork, and Ger Nash has just in the past couple of hours been confirmed as Tim Clancy's replacement. We've got a big live game tomorrow night, yet another Dublin derby. It is Bohemians against Shelbourne from Dalymount Park. That's going to be live on your radio from 7 o'clock. But we got a double header coming up for the European teams who are playing on Friday night and then playing again on Monday night. And it feels as though it's a big few days for Pats, who have just one win in their last 6 games. They're at home tomorrow night against Cork City. Ger Nash isn't going to take over till after this game. Liam Kearney's going to remain in charge. And then they go to Tala to take on top of the table Shamrock Rovers on Monday night. And Stephen Kenny's grabbed his headlines with his quotes from his pre-match press conference yesterday. It wasn't Romantic Ireland that he was bemoaning. It was sportsmanship that he was bemoaning after Shells didn't put the ball out of play. Chris Forrester was down injured, went up the other end and scored. And fair to say, he's been a little bit frustrated about it. There's no rules anymore. There's no sportsmanship at all. Doesn't exist now. It's a big change for me coming in. Sportsmanship is a thing of the past. What do you make of that, Vinny?
Yeah, look, I'm not having a bar of it, to be honest with you. We had a very similar incident I spoke about last week in the Shelbourne, unfortunately for them, and Shamrock Rovers game a couple of weeks ago. We were doing commentary, and what happens is Rovers player goes down injured, they try and score a goal, Shells win the ball back, and then people just presume Shells have to put the ball out. No, I don't buy into it. Stephen has answered his own question in his commentary saying, partly it's the referee's decision to make a call, and it wasn't a head injury. And I think the way that the game is gone, it doesn't sit well with me how benches get so annoyed about these instances, and home fans or the team with the ball, their fans want them to play on, and away fans get ticked.
That Shells Rovers example is the perfect one, because almost everything that's come out of that game and the fallout between Bradley and Duff came from that moment, because it was all very calm and quiet, and we were talking at half-time that night how passive it was, and we needed something to happen. And what happened, as you say, was Rovers players down injured. It might have been Josh Honohan was down at the time. Rovers go on the attack, don't put the ball out of play. Shells win it back, they don't put it out of play. Both sides end up clashing on the sideline, and we're at each other then for the rest of the game, and Damien Duff ends up storming down the tunnel. And there was nothing wrong with the Rovers player, if my memory serves me correct. No,
and I need to be careful, because apparently there's how will I word this? There's another smart arse would say, would he say that if he was Kenny's assistant? No, he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't, because you'd back everything your manager says in public. But let me just be very clear. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a different game in that stadium, and their goalkeeper went down. And one of the Pats members of staff went down to have a little chat with him. He went down, there's nothing on. Now, Pats aren't the only club doing this, but everyone is stealing an edge. So if it goes against you, you can't come out and, you live by the sword, you die by it. And I think it's foolish. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's I don't know, cry for attention. I don't know what the right word is. But it's nonsense to suggest. And what I didn't like about it is it's almost like Shell's done something wrong. They didn't. They played exactly the way the game was meant to be played, and they've played on. And Pat still should have defended the goal properly, and they didn't. It was brilliant play. I think it was Gannon to, I can't remember who the Wilback, the winger was, and great goal. And Chelsea deserved that goal, albeit, Chelsea were lucky to be only 1-0 down at half time. So it's much ado about nothing. And what's brilliant about it is, genuinely, I was chatting to someone the other day about this real quickly. When I think back to when I was playing, when I was first starting, you had absolute. We think there's lots of great characters in the league, and there is. I'm not taking that away. When I started playing, you'd have Richardson, you'd have Dolan, Fenlon, Ollie, Bourne. I'm trying to think of the others. Just loopers everywhere. And all of the same commentary they came out with never got great traction. I know the great saying is still used by News Talk. We get really rock solid down here from Damien Richardson about down at Cork. But if you think about them lads now as well, it's brilliant that this is great attention and people are liking it and following the story. And so it's what makes the league great, because, in fact, what's on the pitch is maybe not brilliant at the moment. What's off it is probably in many ways better.
No, I know you're probably talking more about the quality, but I think excitement-wise, what's happening on the pitch
excitement is brilliant. That's
incredible.
Yeah.
And all of that is ultimately a sideshow, and maybe that's what Stephen Kenny wants with this, Gareth, is that we're not talking about Pats coming into the season as most people's favourites for the title. 1 win in 6, and as I say, a big couple of games coming ahead, because really, if they don't probably take 4 points from those 2 games, they're going to be under a bit of pressure. There's a real sense that Shamrock Rovers are starting to move through the gears, even if they've had their own inconsistencies. And also, maybe the big takeaway from that incident wasn't what happened next. It's the longer term impact, which is Chris Forrester is going to be out for the next month. And do they have anybody to replace him?
Massive. Nathan, you've hit the nail on the head. He's a massive loss. If I think back at the match at the Brandywell recently, some Pats were average until him and Keane came on the pitch. And Keane was incredible for the 35 minutes, and Forrester was just as good as him. They were like a different team, honest to God. They were so much better, and that's the reaction. It's an emotional reaction. Not only the McElroy's 90th minute winner against him, but that is still a knock-on effect now. Forrester is injured. Defensively, they don't look strong enough. So it's an emotional thing. It's where they're at right now. Yes, it's a talking point, and it's something that he wants to talk about. But to me, it's not worth talking about when you consider all the other things that are happening at the club. So Forrester being injured, to me, is the big story to come out of that. And he's trying to play that down. Who's going to come in for him? They already had struggled when Lennon was injured at the beginning of the year in the middle of the park. They're light there. They're very light there. Even when they're all fit, they're strong, but they're not the strongest in the league. So that's what he's concerned about. Then you look at that match on Monday night against Rovers. That is massive. If Rovers were to go and win that match, and the 22 and 26, 7, and move 7 points clear of some Pats, I know you're saying it's only 15, 16 matches gone. That's massive. With the way Rovers are going, the way the players have the way they have so many players back, and the way the league's going, it's so difficult to get points. So it's a huge game. It's one that, to me, they can't afford to lose.
You know what, the Garrett's made an interesting point there, Nathan, on Pats being light in midfield, where I completely agree with him. But actually, and a lot of teams are similar to this, what's interesting is Brandon Kavanagh at times has been brilliant. Damien Lennon at times has been brilliant. And Barry Bagley at times has been brilliant. And we're probably seeing that a little bit with the Derry team. When the best players in these top teams are at it, and any given match, they could go up to talent and win, and it shouldn't shock anybody. And that's why the league is so exciting. So Lennon, Bagley and Kavanagh or Akeem Levy all have to be at the best of their game. The problem Pats are having is there's so many inconsistencies with their performances. You look at everyone spoke about Stephen and his winger Simon Power coming in to give support to Mulroney and to El Bazzetti, but they've been so up and down. It's very hard to have consistency with Pats. We all know Keane is a big loss, so they've been so out of form. But still only 4 points off top of the league. I think you need to be careful with that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think
if they take 6 points, it's a very different conversation we're having next Thursday.
Yeah.
exactly, and that's it, Nathan. But I think that defensively and the defenders at St. Pat's have got a bit of a raw deal with the sloppy goals. I think in front of them, it's been a problem. Stephen knows it's been a problem. Playing at midfield at 2 of Forrester and McClelland for a lot of the games already, it put a lot of pressure in that defence. And Joe Redmond, right, he hasn't been given a lot of plaudits, but if you think about him and Anang, to me, Anang's up there with the best goalkeeper in the league. He's incredible, and he started really well. To me, Joe Redmond, not just in the Brandywell, but from what I've watched of him this season already, he's playing out of his skin. He's been exceptional. His distribution, everybody compliments his defensive work in the air, tackles. His distribution is on another level.
And Nathan, can I bring something up that you touched on, I think, with Stephen, was the back end of last season, they won so many games. And I don't think he overly liked this. You interviewed him, so you'd know from his demeanour on it. Well, it was pressure off. But you know when you're 0-0 and you're 1-0 and you're trying to win a league title, you make those sloppy little decisions, or a fullback pushes forward an extra 5 yards, and he haven't handled that sort of favourites tag very well. And that was my fear. And like, I grew up a Pats fan, so I hope I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong. But I had this fear of, and he's touched on a little bit this week, winning league titles, people winning league titles, players winning league titles, and that little know-how, 1-0 up away to Shells, go and get the job done. By hook or by crook, as beautiful football as his great Dundalk team or his Derry team played, or his Bowes team, they knew how to get over the line. And sometimes that was a little bit ugly. Sometimes that was, playing on the edge.
And I know both of you, having worked with him closely, feel that the constant changes to the squad is a real mark of Kenny, and that he wants that depth, that he wants players putting pressure on each other, and you don't know until the Wednesday who's going to be playing, and that he feels that gets the best out of them. But it does feel that he seems uncertain as to what his best 11 is. Even again, you look at defensively, and whether it's Hoare or Gravosti, and I'm hearing that there's a good chance they'll go into the market in July and maybe try and sign another centre back, and that's going to be an interesting factor as well, that we know they have an owner who's willing to back Stephen Kenny. We now also know that the Mason Melia money coming down the track, and that maybe if they are still right in that mix, they'll go and they'll try and spend come July. But again, maybe he's having the same realisation that we are, that those players who were able to perform at the back end of last season when the pressure's off may not quite have that same mentality when you're expected to win and have to win week in, week out.
Can I just say real quickly, and Gareth can answer that, but just want to, I don't have that assertion. I don't know whether I've given that impression. I think Stephen Kenny does his best work with 15, 16, 17 of a squad max, and he has a core 10, 11, 12 players. I think when too many options, that's when he's not at his very best. In my view, he mightn't like that commentary. I think that's when he's at his very best. And when you go back to, and I'm sorry, I apologise every week we're going back to Dundalk, but when he was picking his team, the real decisions was who played right wing, Darren Meenan or John Milne, depending on who we were playing. Pat Hoban or Dave McMillan sometimes, depending on who was in form. He didn't have lots of decisions to make, and I think that's when he's at his very best. That's my view. And again, he mightn't like that. That's not saying he can't manage a big squad. I just think that's when he's at his very best, when he's got real clarity, real decisions made, almost known as substitutions before the game. And I've seen a couple of substitutions this season that have caused me concern. A great example is going back to the game we done, Nathan. Keane Levy comes on in number 10 position. 5 minutes later, he's playing right wing. And 5 minutes later, plays left wing. And as a player, that's really difficult. Now, sometimes that can happen with another injury and different things, don't get me wrong. But I think size of the squad, I think actually he'd rather be a little bit more quality and smaller, believe it or not. But that's just my view.
Yeah, and just on that, Vinny, and I think this will roll on to Nathan's question as well, is I think what he does is he creates a highly competitive squad that then after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks of that squad to be together, the cream rises to the top and then he gets a settled squad. But the players, the backup players or the backup band, if you like, are at such a high level that they push them on and they keep them basically keep them honest and keep the standards high. But I agree with you, Vinny. Once he gets a settled team, which it doesn't seem to have, Nathan, then I think that's when we expect the 5, 6, 7, 8 ones to come. And it's just not coming. I mean, they've only got it's 3 losses, a draw, and a win in the last 5. I mean, it's not what he would have expected. It's not what he would have wanted. And that's what we can see with the frustrations, with the wee comments here and there, with the short interviews after the match. It's just, you can see it building up, and he doesn't do well with that as well, because he takes that in and then into the training ground, and it doesn't do anybody well.
Before we leave Pats, then one last one, because I think one player that Kenny would stake his life on in that Pats team is Jamie Lennon in the middle of midfield. But around that, Forrester can hold his own, but he's more of a technical player. And then you're into any of those midfielders, whichever he starts, Keane Levy or Brandon Kavanagh. Again, very lovely footballers. But you look at them against Shells last week, like, are they a bit light? Physically, are they a bit light in the middle of the park when you're going up against JJ Lunny and Kerr McEnroy and Evan Caffrey?
I don't think so. I think, to be fair, the strength and conditioning coach he's brought in has definitely made a difference. I can see that physically in the team. I think you look at Joe Redmond, was never carrying anything like that, but he looks like a specimen. In goal looks like he's bought into the strength and conditioning. So, no, I don't. I get your point, because Bagley's not a big, strong midfielder. Keane Levy and Brandon Kavanagh are different types. I think it comes from a little bit indecision. I know one of the Friday Mondays he changed both fullbacks. The Gorgowski one is interesting, even though he didn't play well up in Derry. I've spoken very highly of him. I understand why you want to get Sean Hoare into the team, but Sean is finding his feet. Jamie Lennon is also finding his feet there a little bit after a long-term injury. So I would say there's probably merit in what you're saying, Nathan, but all of that stuff goes out the window when you're winning games. And it's like I said, that midfield 3 could go up to Tallaght, and if they're all at it, they could go and win the game. But we're not seeing that. And the concern would be, even earlier on the season when they were winning games, they weren't playing great. So they haven't found our rhythm this year. And I put that down to, I think they need more strength in the fullback to play the way they want. And just to give this example again, I've probably used it a million times. If you're Zach Elbazetti, Gareth will tell you, he played in the wide areas. The best thing you could ever do is have a flying fullback go past you. You might give him the ball, but once he goes past you, it creates chaos. And that's what I feel that's what they're probably missing.
We're moments away from getting a new intro as Gareth rolls out. You don't give a shite about us up here in Derry. 5 wins from 6, 3 wins in a row. The form team in the league right now, level on points with Shamrock Rovers at the top of the table. It's all coming together.
It is, Nathan. I hope we all believed. It's just, I mean, the
Did
results,
you believe?
I did. Well, you know yourself, there's so much overhaul. I honestly didn't know what to expect. Looking at the way the manager used to play with Larne and stuff, I think he's now got a system and a structure with the players as well that's more comfortable in how they're playing and the positions they're playing. You know the big thing, Nathan, and you think about Shells last year, won the league, and Drogheda won the cup last year. They're not given any chances. It's really good defensively. I mean, if you look at the goals they're scoring, they're not free-flowing, but I don't think anybody's free-flowing. If you look at the Friday, Monday there against the 2 Shelburne and Pats, it was 2 mistakes and a set piece where they got their goals. But if you look at the chances they gave up, they were minimal, really, really minimal. Mulroney got a goal that was maybe offside. You look at Cork first half, they're just past at the weekend. Very good in the first half, excellent in the first half, free flowing, defensively solid. The one thing, and we're talked about Lennon there now, the one thing now is Winchester is not available for the Drogheda match tomorrow night. He's a big loss. He is a massive part of what they do and how they do it. You've got O'Reilly in there who is doing his thing as well. The two of them are combative. They've got energy. They don't let anybody settle on the ball. So any talented players coming to the Brandywell or playing Derry at home, they do not get time to settle on the ball.
Gareth, do you remember you mentioned your top 3 players a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned about 150 of them? Is Gavin White now becoming into that record? He is, like, I've seen them once live in the last 4 weeks, and I've seen them, so obviously I'm watching through scout maps and different things, but he's really impressing me from afar.
But Vinny, his ability has never been in question. He is a quality player. He's a £1 million player, right? But he wasn't fit when he came to the club. He hadn't played in a long time. It took him a while now. And I thought the same thing. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. He's got a pre-season under his belt. How is he not fit after a good pre-season? But he wasn't right at the beginning of the year. He brought him in then for 2 games. He started him back-to-back, and he just still looked off it. We don't know what's going on, right? Because I'm not that close to the club to be able to say, put your finger on it. But see now, the glimpses that we've got in the last 3 or 4 games, it's scary. His ability to travel with the ball at pace is unbelievable. And we saw against Waterford, when he knocks it past someone, there's nobody catching him. And he's got a lot of attributes you think, like, but from what I've seen, and this is glimpses, and this is not being kind of blowing on things out of proportion, but if he consistently plays and gets better and better and better, he could be the best player in the league.
I agree.
That's the level.
Genuinely agree. Well, Jack Bourne might call to me house if I don't bring his name up. But that aside, I agree. But
that's the levels that he's capable of getting to. Yeah. But you know yourself, there's so many variables that needs to happen, and he's going to be so important for Derry, because I tell you why. See with that 5-3-2 that they play, him going forward, Michael Duffy going forward, and Danny Mullen. Should any of them pick up a serious injury, their attacking threat just it comes back a lot. So they're going to be big players for them, him in particular.
Will you send Nathan a scouting report and Gavin White? Because you know the way he probably doesn't even know who he is at this stage. You know,
that was going to be my one about you giving us the sales pitch here for Derry, because Vinny doesn't leave the M50 and all that, and we're Dublin derby after Dublin derby every single week. But look, you were, I think, very honest in your criticism at the start of the season, and maybe we were all expecting an instant impact from Tiernan Lynch with his reputation, but also with the money that was spent and the quality of players that were coming through. But, notable that the scorers last week against Cork were Kevin Holt and Liam Boyce, 2 of those star signings, that the manager's getting his message across and those guys are fit. And again, when you look at the level, say, that Holt has come from, been a first-team regular at a higher-end Scottish Premiership team, you look at the level that Liam Boyce has played at, you've got quite a few of potentially the best players in the league, and it might suit Derry that everybody's talking about these big Dublin derbies every week and they're just quietly going about their business.
Absolutely. I mean, Kevin Holt's a perfect example, right? So Derry always struggled last year, for the last 4 or 5 years, centre-half scoring goals, and a lot of the teams do as well. You look at Lee Grace, you look at Honohan scoring goals, you look at now Kevin Holt getting off the mark. You need at least 8 to 10 goals from your centre-halves and your full-backs, and teams aren't getting that anymore. So set pieces are crucial. But you talked about Winchester there, Captain Shrewsbury, another really, really good player. But Holt really solidifies the defenders. He's very calm, and when you see him live, if off the ball ever make it to the Brandywell, you'll see him pass the ball really well. His distribution is excellent. He doesn't take any chances, and his decision making on the ball is exceptional. We always said it, and Vinny will tell you as a manager, you're graded as a player almost on your decision making on the ball. You can have all the attributes in the world, but see if you constantly make the wrong decisions, you're going to get into trouble. And his distribution and decision making is top notch, and you can see he's played at a high level. But as you say, but you need to keep them all fit, Nathan. And just a point that's going to be crucial that you mentioned just now, Nathan. The transfer window is going to be huge. We're talking about the kind of holes in all these squads and what they need and what they don't need. It looks as if, and it sounds as if in the League of Ireland, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to spend money in the summer, and that could be just the difference.
Are Derry going to spend more money, Gareth?
I don't know if there's much left, but I think there's a few coppers left.
I was taking the mix there, but think about their bench, like Benson, Paul McMullen, Danny Mullen came off, Kieran Harkin. Like, it's not bad, is it? Like, in terms of
using the squad options. Well. He's using the squad well as well, right? He doesn't change the back 7 much, but see the two, like he changed it Friday, Monday, the 2 attacking midfielders, and those, so almost the 2 10s. So kind of like how Rovers play, but see the work rate of the 2 10s on Friday night was exceptional. So he basically said that you go out here now and you give me 90 minutes. Let's see how you get on, but you will be replaced on the Monday. And the work rate that they put in front of Winchester and O'Reilly was exceptional.
Yeah, and Nathan, and many times I mention it, is that see the pace. So White and Michael Duffy's pace in League of Ireland, I think is huge. And that Derry squad, I hope I'm wrong. I think the League of Ireland needs Derry to go very, and I mean a proper title push a lot of us in the league would like to see Derry winning the league actually once every so often at least. I just think it'd be brilliant, and just hope they have like what they've certainly look is fitter than last year, and that's not a slight on the staff of last year. They managed the game and they played it a different way, but Brennan Lynch looks like he's got Derry a hell of a lot fitter, and now he's got real options on his bench. Really, look, obviously Hogan's not going to play. Or not going to play a lot. There's obviously something going on there, but they have like Dom Thomas on the bench. They've got real strength and depth, and I think the other clubs around Dublin should keep a big eye on them because they're just doing their business away in the corner there, as you said, up the road, and we might have to go up there a bit more often now.
Look, if they win the league, Vinny, we'll go up and we'll do commentary of a Champions League qualifier. Give ourselves a year. Give ourselves a year.
Once they don't play anyone from Gibraltar, we will. We'll go.
Oh, Jesus, boys!
I was up. How many years ago was that? They played Punic, I remember, in a big European game. Mkhitaryan was playing the Armenian side.
That's right. Yeah, we played against them. They weren't bad.
My main memory of it is I think it was on the 11th of July, so I got back home as quick as I could.
I remember scouting for Derry for Stephen Kenny over in Sofia, if I remember correctly, just before the big crash happened up in Derry. Yeah, that was my role. And FC Riga, we could win that European game as well. Thanks. You're welcome, Gareth.
At the end of the day, that's the games that we want in the Brandy. Well, you look at the new stand now, you'll see it when you come up.
Looks good on TV.
It's starting to really, really come together. I mean, there's talk of expanding the Mark Farn stand as well, and that'll bring it up over 6,000. I mean, we need European football, and I know we're talking about Derry title contenders. I mean, I just think finishing in the top 2 or 3 this season is a real achievement considering the overhaul.
So that victory for Derry down at Turner's Cross was followed within the hour by the departure of Tim Clancy as Cork City manager. Within the last couple of hours, Ger Nash has been announced as their new manager. I'll get your thoughts on that appointment in a moment. But first, Vinny, Tim Clancy was on Off the Ball Breakfast during the week, and he was, I think, very open and honest as to why he made the decision. He wasn't pushed. I think it was his decision to go. And, well, to a man who spent a lot of time as assistant manager, probably music to your ears, the importance of an assistant manager, but also someone who has been front and centre as well. It sounded like it had become quite a lonely role for him, and that the support that he felt that was needed to get the best out of this Cork City squad, they just couldn't get it in place.
Yeah, I found it interesting. I mean, we'll never know the full ins and outs. Everyone is sort of second guessing. Was it this? Was it that? I know they had reached out to a couple of people. They were trying to appoint an assistant manager from. So, but look, I think Tim has been very, very honest, and I think it's important to say that, look, we live in a social media world to a point, like, but that doesn't mean it's the truth. And what am I trying to say, Nathan, is management is so difficult. Football in this country is really, really difficult. It is like you lose a lot of sleep. You get close to, when you lose games, you get close to depressed, affect your life. I shouldn't say depressed because there's people have serious mental health issues, the whole world. And so I don't want to link the two, but it is such a pressure that is so difficult. That has a big strain on your life when you think a team had to travel 2 hours to go home, even longer, and he was staying down in Cork some nights and other nights. It is so difficult, and you know, he probably got a bit of stick off Billy 123 on the internet. As much as you try and stay away from that, it always turns up somewhere in your face. And I think what he's done is he's highlighted how difficult League of Ireland or any management is. And in League of Ireland, yes, a lot of lads get paid well, and I think it varies. Some people might be on double what other people are on, but it's a good industrial wage. It's a good wage, but it's not life-changing. And the pressure that comes with that, I just can't explain how difficult it is. And so much so that I wouldn't have even been considered for the Cork job, for example. But I find that really difficult. Really difficult. I love football. I'm addicted to it. Eat, sleep and drink it. I know more about the League of Ireland now than I did when I was coaching. But I would have found that really difficult. I'm steering clear of them type of jobs at the moment because I'd like to think I'm somebody who's whatever that, I hate that even term. I don't know what the right word is. Correct me, Nate, if I make a mistake by using the word mentally strong person. But I tell you what, it's become a really difficult environment to be in. And I wouldn't, part of me wouldn't wish football management on my worst enemy. You've no idea. It's great. The highs are great. But actually, Tim will have a bit like Keith Long, a little bit of relief now for a couple of days. And Friday night is no longer the hardest day of the week. And Friday, Saturday. And it's funny that the easiest part of the week is training, the hardest part in management is the match day and the day after. It is so difficult. And
well, it was interesting listening to Tim in that I think he was very honest in that, he has a new business that he's opened up with his wife, and obviously that's taking up some of his time. He's a real family man, loves to spend as much time as possible with the kids. And in that real cynical football way, you're going, well, unfortunately, you want to be a football manager, you got to push all that stuff to the side.
Yeah. And I think that's what people don't understand. I mean, if you're not 90, 100 hours a week at football management, funny, I'll tell you, if you're not thinking about it, if you're not watching football, if you're not speaking to people about it, then you get left behind. It's as simple as that. There are other managers will outwork you. Now, an interesting one that I got from that interview, and I've been shouting about it for quite a while, especially up in Derry, is see if you haven't got the structure off the pitch, and I'm not talking about assistant managers, I'm talking about technical director of football. You wouldn't believe, and Vinny will probably tell you this, just to be able to talk to somebody else that is a little bit within the club about the football challenges that you're having, even to get it off your chest or to bounce it off someone, then that's almost a relief. Or even to be able to delegate some of the workload that is put on a football manager these days. And you've got to remember, the budgets are getting bigger, the players are getting more complex, and the dressing rooms are getting more diverse. So you need to be able to manage all of that, as well as the transfers, as well as the photo shoots. It's just impossible. And we're seeing clubs constantly burning out managers. And until they rectify it off the pitch, it will continue to happen. Because let me tell you something now, Cork will find it very difficult. I know Jaron Ash is going on there now to find a better manager than Tim Clancy. And that's the problem. We've lost another good person in League of Ireland football for the time being.
Yeah, can I sum this up, mate? And some of my friends criticising me for being honest. But fuck it, we are talking about it's so hard, Nathan. That like I lost sleep, I put on weight, couldn't sleep at night for 3-4 days in a row if a result didn't go my way. And Gareth's right, having support with you, but ultimately, generally in football, even a director of football, like you look at say maybe Aaron Reynolds, someone like Pat Fenton has been there, been in the trenches, but deep down you're just not 100% sure, and it's the most loneliest place in the world. The biggest challenge is when you come out of football, it's even more lonely because I spent 10, 12 years as a player in a dressing room with 20 odd players. Then I spent another 10, 12 years in a changing room with another 10, 20, 30 players. And ultimately then part of your life, and Tim would experience this and Longer would as well, they're the freshest ones. You leave those other parts of your life behind a little bit. Mates that you used to go golfing with, mates you used to go for a pint with, you can't go with them on Friday, or you're watching a game back on Saturday, you're up here, you're away, you're only off over Christmas, you're not around for those barbecues. And ultimately then, all your mates are gone. And when the lights go out, I tell you what, you're left on your own and you become really, lonely is a big word because there is people out there that are very lonely, but you become the like-minded people that you need to be around are gone from your life, and it is so difficult. So I admire Tim's decision, and I admire his thinking. But there will be fans or people will say, well, that's what football management is, or they get on with it. But a bit, and again, if I can make this a party broadcast myself, I still believe I'm good enough to win the league with a right team. But I ain't applying for jobs at the moment because I don't know whether I can go back in and do that. Tim will probably be the same. Can
I just ask Vinny on that? Because we are in a rather unique situation in Ireland. Maybe not absolutely unique, but certainly in comparison to a lot of countries where, as you pointed out, Tim Clancy ain't leaving a £500,000 a year job at Cork City. He's leaving a job that has a very regular salary, whereby if Cork had gone a run of losing the next 3 or 4 games, Dermot Usher, the club's owner, may well have decided, I'm making the change. And either way, you're walking away with nothing, as you know, it seems like he has done. And there's no other jobs. There ain't no other gigs. So he's, and I got that sense from him, he's had to make a life choice recently of, okay, I'm going to set up a family business because, like, football, you just can't rely on it.
Oh, okay. So again, I'll use loose terms, 60, 70, 80 grand a year job. Solskjaer left at the same time, got 7 million. I done okay. I got a bit of European money, grand. Done okay, didn't need to work straight away. But ultimately, I'd left a career that I built outside of football because I was only part-time as a player. I wasn't good enough to be full-time. And I'm starting my coaching career, it was part-time. And ultimately, the football became the full-time and the job became sort of almost part-time. So I gave up my career around 2018. And then all of a sudden, it's 20, whatever it is, 2020, heading into 21. No job. No, like, my career is, I've given up. And what do you do? And then, as I said, you go from, it's so public. Like, when I lost my job, it was the lead news on the 6-1 news. So why am I saying that? It's like, there's no hiding place from that. You can't go, like, everybody knows. The neighbours on barely know you're a League of Ireland manager, know you've lost your job. It is such a difficult, and the highs are brilliant. The European nights, the lifting league titles, all of that stuff are great. But the lows are so bad that it's a tough industry for anyone to go into. So once, like, it's so difficult to find work outside of the top jobs. And then ultimately, when you have been a manager, very few people want to apply it as assistant manager. I remember offering my service to a League of Ireland youth team for free, but the head coach didn't want me around the club because he thought I wanted this job. I didn't want to manage. So you can't even. It's very difficult to coach. So that's a real long-winded way of saying to you, Nate, would I ever manage again? I'm not talking about me. So I'm just saying, you look at me, Pete Long. There's so many examples of these people. Obviously, him just coming out of it. It has to be the right club, the right environment, the right everything. And but I'm busy trying to repair the damage, believe it or not. So this is the best way. I'm busy at the moment trying to repair the damage to my life when I came out of Dundalk. So these lads might jump back in. They may be, bigger and stronger than me, that's fine. But if they don't, you have to have people around them, and it's not easy, as you said. And they're not walking away with payouts of 500 or 600 grand or anything like that. Nowhere near it.
It's a tough gig. It is a tough gig. And Ger Nash is next up. He's 38 years of age. He was very much in the mix when Tim Clancy got the job, but he was working with Aston Villa with one of their youth teams, and he decided to stay there. Since then, he's gone to one of the clubs linked with Villa in Sweden, and he's been coaching over there. But now he's decided to take this job on. And it's so straightforward in a way, Gareth, for Cork. They're in 9th place. They're 8 points behind Go United in 8th. They're 3 points ahead of Sligo in 10th. That the only task is to stay in 9th between now and the end of the season.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's not a shot at the dark, but I'm hoping that he's given time. I mean, as you say, Sligo, and we know Sligo's a dangerous team. There's nothing saying that Sligo won't go and win 3 out of the next 6 games and put real pressure on Cork. Like, this is not this is just go and see how you get on. He's got to get in there and start winning games. But at the same time, he's got to be given time. The only good thing is Tim Clancy has left him a really good team and a really good, young, hungry team. We saw it. We saw it against Derry the last match, when just after Tim Clancy resigned shortly after. The first half, they were diabolical. They came out and they showed real character in the second half, and probably maybe could have got a draw out of the game. But there's been so many of those games this year that they have been so close to getting a result. It's just gone the other way. So Jared Nash will be happy with that. He'll be happy with the young players. But it looks like Cathal O'Sullivan, he's going to lose him in the window now. That looks like a deal that's going to go through. So he's going to have to try and recruit. But again, his network, not only in Sweden, also with the underage in England, he should be able to bring players in. And it's a great opportunity for him. It's a great opportunity for any club. We know how good Cork can be and how well the fans get behind them. So if Ger Nash goes in there, picks up a couple of results, maybe keeps him in the Premier Division this year and gives it a real rattle next year through a couple of windows, I mean, the sky's the limit for Cork.
Yeah, Cathal O'Sullivan was over at Crystal Palace again on Monday night, so it looks as though with the contract up at the end of the season, they'll probably have to cash in, and even then won't get full value. He's 18, so he can go, and that's going to be a massive blow. Seanie Maguire came off the bench last minute. Rory Keating, I think they'll be happy if they see him by the end of the summer, maybe even if they see him again this season. So it's a big old gig for Ger Nash, and they start tomorrow night away at Pats. Also tomorrow night we've got a Connacht derby, Galway United against Sligo Rovers. Listening to John Caulfield, Gareth, they've just had a lot of injuries over the last couple of weeks, and I was pointing out last Friday night that I think on the Monday fixtures at about 5:30 Galway United were top of the league, and by 10 o'clock on Friday night they were 8th. They're only 6 points off the top of the table. It's just so tight, but they are currently 8th in the league. Are you looking at Galway and seeing teams figuring them out, or is it just that they've got a lot of injuries and no squad can sustain that?
Got a lot of injuries, but one thing I've watched the games, the Galway games, they're conceding a lot of goals that are unlike Galway. A lot of set pieces, a lot of second balls. I don't know, and it's one of those things where you start conceding goals from set pieces, and all of a sudden it's in your head that you're going to concede from a set piece. They're just on Galway, like, you know. And then, of course, we've got Moses up front with Walsh and Hickey. I mean, they've got good threat up there, but it's just at the back, which is what they've been unbelievable at, not just in the first division before they came up, but every year since they've been in the Premier Division, is not conceding goals. I mean, they've already conceded 19 this year in 15 games. That's very unlike Galway. So I think that's something that Caulfield and Ollie Horgan are probably really frustrated with, and it's very unlike them, because when I've watched them, the centre halves, we've given them loads of credit, but at the minute it just doesn't seem to be working. I don't know whether it's the midfield, the goalkeeper, the what it is, but they're conceding on goals that are not like them. So I mean, listen, if you're talking about the third bottom now, I don't see them finishing in 8th. I see them climbing the table and finishing mid-table. I don't see them being in any immediate danger to be caught by the bottom two.
It was a top of the table clash in Tala last week. It was, well, certainly in the second half, incredibly one-sided. Shamrock Rovers beat Drogheda United by 3-0. Talking to people after the game, a lot of people disappointed with Drogheda. Maybe were expecting more from a team who went into that top of the league. Vinny?
Yeah, you said it was one-sided in the second half. It was one-sided, full stop. I thought Drogheda were, we've given them huge credit, and I think this is a losing up a Tala, that can happen to anybody. Any team could lose up a Tala. Drogheda, no big shock there. The manner in which they lost was really, really disappointing. I'd be concerned by the performance up there. They've got to move on it from quickly, very, very quickly. Markey was a big loss for them, so someone to get a hold of the ball. But the sort of concern for me is when you look at, say, the way he's changed the back three after the couple of bad results, and Andrew Quinn and James Bulger coming out, that was like, so that's what the foundation was built on in terms of them three. And they didn't always defend brilliantly, but there was bodies on the line at different stages, and what they were very strong at. So often Andy Quinn would win the fourth header at back post and it'd be headed back, and but it was whatever. So I was just a little bit concerned about how them sort of changes that were made. And when you look at, say, someone like Cooper just coming into the team, he was playing, I think, on his wrong side, kicked the ball out, played quite a lot. He just had nothing about him. He gave up the ghost. He never went to Tala and had a bit of a cut. And as I said, you can always lose there. Like, just very, very disappointed. Ryan Brennan was taken off early, and it was almost like, well, we're not going to win this game. We take him off. Yeah, I just wasn't. I was really worried about the performance. I think they've got to get back to that team they had. And it's like I spoke about earlier on about Stephen Kenny with his best way. I think Kevin should have a very core team and understand there's days where they're not going to play well, but just stick to that core principles he has. And I'm not saying they've come away or trying to play a different way, but the way they went up to Tala, you may as well not point up or send Terezi's up and taking the night off. You know, he will say they got to half time and it was nearly this and nearly that, but they didn't lay a glove on them. So I have to say, very, very disappointed and concerning that it was so bad. That's the worst I've seen them in a couple of years.
Rovers are away to Waterford tomorrow night. Drogheda at home against Derry. Our live game then is the Dublin Derby. Bohemians against Shelbourne, 7:45. Stephen Doyle and Richie Towell will be at Dalymount Park for that one. It is live on Off the Ball. And the Moose has finally delivered. Now, he was literally up against a couple of school kids down at Sligo, but he's got his goal. Is this the turning point?
Yes, hopefully. I know, genuinely. I think like,
the gap there was the gap we were waiting for the Moose to get his goal.
Yeah, I genuinely hope it is. Like, I think, God love the fella. It's hard enough to make it in England, but to make it and all to be taken away so quickly must be difficult to deal with mentally. And then coming to Ireland, very, very difficult. I think we all expected that it probably wouldn't work out, and it still may not. We all expected that over the last few weeks, we might see. We might see a statement from both of them, and it just didn't work out. But to see him scoring, and do you know what's brilliant about it? Actually, the joy in his face, like, it meant something to him. You could see that sense of relief. I was delighted for him. I think you've got to be a bit romantic around football, and it's a great story for him. And best of luck to him. I think it's brilliant, and delighted for him.
Yeah, I think the way he played in the Aviva in the first game, I mean, it really did whet the appetite on how good he could be, and you saw flashes of it. He was really, really good, but it just never kicked on from there for whatever reason. So, I mean, maybe this is the start of it again, and he can kick on. He's got his goal. Does he play up front alongside Whelan, or how do they get him into the team is the big one for me. But I'd like to see, I'm sure Bows fans as well would like to see more of him.
One thing, if you're tuning into our commentary, stay till the end, because if we know anything from Bohemians right now, it'll be somewhere around from 85 minutes on when they'll really get going. And they've certainly found themselves a bit of form over the past few weeks.
Do you reckon you could bring out a new jersey night? The late show or something like that?
I think they have a new jersey. Did I see? There was a nice new black jersey I saw up yesterday.
I've seen that one, yeah.
Yeah, slick.
It is.
You can't be critical of these new jerseys. They're all very nice.
No, and that one is class, and it just shows you, like, for all of the and I'm even doing it now, all the bit of banter around jerseys and stuff. I mean, the money they'll make from that jerseys, they did a business right there, and they deserve huge credit for it. I know it probably pisses a few fans off of other clubs that, they think it's, I don't know what they think it is, but it's one of them jerseys I'd wear myself, to be fair. It's a really good gig, and fair play.
All right, well, I'm sure somebody in the marketing department's listening and can sort you out there, Vinny. We'll get you out next week. You'll have the Bulls jersey, whatever the latest version is.
No, Rockshore, true and true, Nathan, as you know.
Did you get that? Did you get that pallet of Rockshore, Vinny? Mine must have got caught in customs.
Yeah, you can send that up north to Cards.
No, Vinny will have to take your Rockshore as well.
0-0.
On that note, our League of Ireland football on Off the Ball is brought to you by Rockshore, a league of our own. Drink responsibly. See drinkaware.ie. So Bowl Shells live on your radio tomorrow night. We will have League of Ireland late night. Then from 10 o'clock, Barry Murphy and Shane Keegan are going to be with Cameron for all your post-match reaction. We'll have interviews with all the managers and all that post-match up on our social channels as well. And then on Monday, we will have coverage of the two big games, Shells against Drogheda and Shamrock Rovers against Pats, all the European teams in action. But Gareth McGlynn, Vinny Perth, thank you as ever.
Thank you, man. Love it.
The League of Ireland pod in partnership with Rockshore.
On Off the Ball.
A league of our own. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.